Make a life for myself. 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 Make a life for myself.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls from all over the world, what a day that we have in front of us today. Some big time news came out, big time news, which it seems correlates pretty closely to what we saw months and months ago when a bunch of influencers got subpoenaed. So I wanted to go live right now, primarily to offset a lot of the FUD that's going to be happening, and obviously it's not like this is not unwarranted FUD. It's really scary for people, and I understand that, but I want to offset that with the actual facts, because there's going to be so much craziness that's being talked about all over the place, and there's going to be a lot of lies. So what I want to do is go straight to the heart of this complaint from the SEC. And I want to bring this up and talk about it. I'll give you my opinion on this. I'm not going to tell you whether or not you need to sell your stuff or keep your stuff, just to be very clear about that. That's not what this is about. This is about giving you the information, giving you the facts, and obviously I'm not a lawyer, but we'll kind of talk about it. We'll get into it. So first thing I'm going to do, let's check chat here. Got quite a few folks in chat. BWG, let's go Rags. I'm buying the F out of this dip. That's because I'm a peanut brain. Gym token only. I am out of bullets. Fox Murder, perfect timing. Days before the highest of stakes releases. I'm not sure if there could be any better marketing for the highest of stakes other than what just happened. So the highest of stakes guys, they might be pretty happy about this, unless maybe their legal counsel says, hey, maybe we shouldn't play this. I don't know. It's very interesting situation right now, but certainly this is massive marketing for the highest of stakes when people start coming in and looking. Max Statico says, if this ends up like the XRP case, then we will miss the next bull run. Davis says, ouch. Red Squirrel, oi, oi. What's up? Gym token only. Let's freaking go. DJ and Dougie Peach says, sale, facing reality. What is up? Money Gang Crypto going crazy. JB, hi. What's up, guys? MT Coiner, man, you went live at the same time as the Senate hearings. Let's check. Davis says, time to inject more powder. Magnus, this is the best dip we're going to see yet. So let's start out there. Let's see kind of where things are at. I think I've got the whale sacrifice rate that is marked on this chart here. So I can go ahead and share. Let's see what everybody's doing in terms of the charts. And let me pull this up. I'll share it with you guys. Big boom. All right, multi-charts, cool. And then we'll zoom in here. All right, so this is actually PLSX. Do we want PLSX? I don't know. This will tell the same story. It's the same story. Okay, so everything pretty much dropped 40 to 50%. So interesting that what we have here. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me try to zoom in a little bit. So we have about a 50% retracement to the upside. Okay, so after this information came out, I think it came out about, well, let's check the timestamp. This came out, I don't know, like within the last hour. Interesting situation here in that it did fall off. Looks like we had about a 63% fall off on PulseX and most all these other ones because they're all tied together. And now we have about a 34% fall off. So we bounced on that bottom pretty hard. It's interesting. And like I said before, the folks who actually hold these things, you know, their donation rate or sacrifice rate rather, especially the bigger whales, it was much, the break-even point was much lower for those folks. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next couple hours. Looks like we even had a little bit more of a bounce here. So it's interesting to see how the market is actually reacting to this news. So let's kind of get into this news here and make sure that's off. Okay, that's cool. All right. Press release, U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. If you guys remember, I did a pretty in-depth, I've done in-depth analysis of some of the other lawsuits that have come out against Richard to just kind of get an idea. And we do that with a lot of projects. So if you go here to sec.gov/news/press releases, you're going to see the latest press release here. And it's SEC charges Hex founder Richard Hart with misappropriating millions of dollars of investors' funds from unregistered crypto asset securities offerings that raised more than $1 billion. So misappropriation of millions of dollars of funds here from unregistered crypto asset securities offerings. So, you know, one of my first opinions on all of this is everything that's happening in crypto right now is just, it seems like from the SEC standpoint, they're going to throw the book at everything and they're going to see what sticks. I think the SEC probably needs a marquee win. And they might see Hex and they might see what's happening here as that marquee win for them. Some type of leverage that they can get in the courts. And make no mistake, guys, they will use Hex and also bring up other cryptocurrencies like they've done to try to make the case against DeFi. And also making the case with Hex will strengthen cases other places. And that's because human beings, they read the news. Okay. So all of this is tied together, guys. If you think this is just a Hex thing, you're crazy. It's not just a Hex thing. There are implications for every single project out there across cryptocurrency that is not Bitcoin. You know, today we had information come out from Coinbase's Brian Armstrong. And he says the SEC straight up told Coinbase that everything that is not Bitcoin needs to be delisted from Coinbase. And of course, they're not going to do that because that was going to destroy cryptocurrency in America. So guys, all of this is tied together, make no mistake. And they are going to make they're going to make a very, very, very strong FUD case against cryptocurrency, and they're going to use Hex here. And we kind of saw this coming because we saw those subpoenas come out. What was that? 6 months ago now. And I will also say it was kind of my opinion that Richard was being quiet because he knew that this was coming down the pike. I think we've confirmed that the reason he hasn't been streaming is because he probably knew that this was coming down the pike here. So let's get into the actual press release, and then we're going to go through, this might be a long time here. It might take a while, but we're going to go over all the details. What's actually out there? I'll have my commentary. Remember, I barely graduated high school, so anything I say you can take with a grain of salt. But we will read directly from the SEC's press release. Okay. I'm going to check chat here. Here we go. Fire sale. Didn't the SEC time that well? This is the best dip we going to get. This dip is juicy, good all day. Richard should stream. I doubt he'll stream because they'll use, you guys are going to see in the documents, man, they nitpick. I read through most of it. Some of it I have not. Mobius, what's up? Love you, Rags. Let's go, fam. It's time to sell organs, pimp the wife out, rob a bank so you can eat the dip. Logan Gawkin, capitulation. You were first to do a stream. Let's go. I'm behind our ecosystem, community, and RH. Did the price just dip? I don't even pay attention anymore. Just stay and chill. What bridge are you guys using? Okay. All right, guys. We're going to face this head on. We're not going to be fearful. We're going to arm ourselves with the facts. We're going to think critically, and then you can make decisions with that. And that's what's important to me here. So, SEC charges Hex founder Richard Hart with misappropriating millions of dollars of investor funds from unregistered crypto asset securities offerings that raised more than $1 billion. So this is obviously referring to the sacrifice phases for PulseX and Pulse Chain, and then also Hex is kind of thrown in there as well. So they're it's a pretty broad stroke, but that's what they're doing. So Washington, D.C., July 31st, 2023. The SEC today charged Richard Hart, a.k.a. Richard Schuler. If you guys have been around here, we know that's his name. And 3 unincorporated entities that he controls. I found this interesting. They talk about unincorporated entities. And that in itself is actually, I think that's going to be pretty important, especially when it comes to if this makes it to trial. I don't know if Richard is going to settle or what, but that word is going to be important. Okay. So 3 unincorporated entities that he controls: Hex, Pulse Chain, and PulseX, with conducting unregistered offerings of crypto asset securities that raised more than $1 billion in crypto assets from investors. Okay, so nothing here is new. Okay, that sentence, nothing here is new. We understood that there was a sacrifice phase. We understood that money was put into those sacrifice wallets. We understand that. And we also understand the language and the verbiage that was used to define what a sacrifice actually is. And we're going to get further into that as well. The SEC also charged Hart and Pulse Chain with fraud for misappropriating at least $12 million of offering proceeds to purchase luxury goods, including sports cars, watches, and a 55-carat black diamond known as the Enigma, reportedly the largest black diamond in the world. So, when I first read this, just my opinion here, it was interesting that out of $1 billion, the SEC is coming after Richard Hart for $12 million bucks. And I would also be interested to see, obviously they do this, they do the subpoenas, they kind of get in discovery mode, they check and see what's happening. But 12 million of that was used to purchase those 3 things. Be interested to see what the data is and the facts are around that. According to the SEC's complaint, Hart began marketing Hex in 2018, claiming it was the first high-yield blockchain certificate of deposit. We know that. And began promoting Hex tokens as an investment designed to make people rich. We know that. From at least December 2019 through November 2020, Hart and Hex allegedly offered and sold Hex tokens in an unregistered offering, collecting more than $2.3 million or 2.3 million Ethereum, including through so-called recycling transactions that enabled Hart to surreptitiously, I've never heard that one, gain control of more Hex tokens. Okay. So let's kind of go over this real quick. I don't think that this is anything new. So what they're arguing and what the rest of cryptocurrency is currently arguing is whether or not these, for lack of a better word, we'll call it an ICO. An ICO, are these actually securities offerings? So XRP is dealing with this. Now Hex is dealing with this. I think the cryptocurrency market at large, libraries dealing with this. So this is just the battle that's going on back and forth. Now, here's where it gets a little bit interesting, including through so-called recycling transactions that enabled Hart to gain control of more Hex tokens. The complaint also alleges that between at least July 2021 and March 2022, Hart orchestrated 2 additional unregistered crypto asset security offerings that each raised hundreds of millions of dollars more in crypto assets. Okay, again, this is nothing new. We were familiar with Pulse Chain and PulseX. The wallets were there. We could see how much was in those wallets. As alleged, those funds were intended to support development of a supposed crypto asset network, Pulse Chain, an acclaimed crypto asset trading platform, PulseX, through the offerings of their native tokens. So they use the word alleged, and again, it's all about the language. And I'm not a lawyer, but we're going to keep reading here. I might come back to that. Through the offerings of their native tokens, respectively PLS and PLSX. Hart also allegedly designed and marketed a so-called staking feature for Hex tokens, which he claimed would deliver returns as high as 38%. The complaint further alleges that Hart attempted to evade securities laws by calling on investors to sacrifice instead of invest their crypto assets in exchange for PLS and PLSX tokens. All right. So here's what's interesting. It's going to be difficult just from a mathematical standpoint for them to prove, just in my mind, that you don't receive a 38% return in those Hex tokens. Okay, it's a feature for Hex tokens, which he claimed would deliver as high as 38%. Well, that's mathematically verifiable on the blockchain with the code. Now, I know that they're making the point that I guess he's just trying to... They're making the point that this is a security because he's making a claim, so people have, I guess, in their mind, the expectation of some sort of return. So I think that's actually what this paragraph is about. Again, if you guys disagree with anything I'm saying here, or you want to add additional input, just hit it up in the chat. We can go from there. So I don't think anything that I've seen here other than the actual figure. So he raised $1 billion. They're saying that 12 million of those were used to purchase luxury goods, including sports cars, watches, and a black carat diamond. Okay. So that's new for me because I didn't know that exact figure. Hart called on investors to buy crypto asset securities in offerings that he failed to register. Okay, so here's the heart of the matter. All right. So this is interesting. So, and this, again, this is the big to do all over cryptocurrency right now. Are these distribution phases of this token initially, are these ICOs or are they not? Okay. He then defrauded those investors by spending some of their crypto assets on exorbitant luxury goods. So out of about $1 billion, they're claiming that Richard defrauded everybody by using 12 million of that. The SEC complaint filed in U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York alleges that Hex, Pulse Chain, and PulseX violated the registration provisions of Section 5 of the Securities Act of 1933. All right, so let's look that up. And let me... You don't have to see my screen here while I'm doing this. You can just look at my ugly mug. Let's look this up. And I'm pretty sure this is just the Securities Act, Section 5. Under Section 5 of the Securities Act, all issuers must register non-exempt securities with the SEC. Section 5 regulates the timeline and distribution process for issuers who offer securities for sale. All right. So that's what Section 5 is. And basically they're saying, hey, you should have come to the SEC to register this. All issuers must register non-exempt securities with the SEC. Okay. So that is that. All right. And let's go back here. I'll share this for you. The complaint seeks injunctive relief, disgorgement of ill-gotten gains, plus prejudgment interest, penalties, and other equitable relief. So this is a huge, broad stroke. Okay, it's difficult for me to really understand exactly what they're seeking, but we might get some further clarification when we actually look at the document that was submitted to the courts here. All right. So, so just off the top of my head, I'm very curious personally, what is included under injunctive relief. So sometimes during the process during the legal process, if they issue some sort of an injunction on an entity or a person or this or that, that can mean a lot of different things. Okay. So for example, XRP did not get issued an injunction on trading. They did not. So because they did not, the people could still continue to buy and sell these things, even though a lot of these got delisted. So maybe we can go to, let's see here. Let's go to injunctive relief. Let's check this out. Yeah. So injunction relief, also known as injunction relief or simply an injunction, is a court order that prohibits an organization or an individual from taking a specific action. Conversely, an injunction may also require an entity to take certain action. So we don't know what they're wanting that injunction to be. What is that specific action that they are wanting Richard Hart to take? Okay. So this is interesting here. The SEC's continuing investigation is being conducted by Jamie Marinero and Derek Kleinman of the Fort Worth Regional Office with assistance from Jamie Halsecker. So Derek Kleinman, if we look into, I looked into his background a while back when we saw some of these, subpoenas come through, and he's got a pretty extensive career and background in this sort of thing. I should probably brush up on exactly what he is and what he does, but he is out of the Dallas office, but he'd been around for quite a while. Okay. The litigation will be conducted by Matthew J. Gold and supervised by David Frazier. Okay, and then here's what they also do, and I'll share this. At the bottom, they say, if you're an investor in Hex, PulseChain, or PulseX, or if you have information related to this investigation and you wish to contact the SEC staff, please submit a tip at sec.gov. Okay, so they're basically saying, hey, guys, if you have further information about this that could help our case out, here's the link. Go click it. That's what they're saying here. Okay. All right, so let's get into the actual documentation. I'll take a look at chat here. Rags, you're the first to do a stream. Humberto Gonzalez, I'm behind our ecosystem and community in RH. Did the price dip? Yes. The bounce back. And I'm going to check here. Let's check. So it continues to bounce. So we are now up about 89%, 90% from the bottom. So almost 100% from the bottom. And we looks like we're going to be back if it decides to keep going. About 29% of where that whale sacrifice rate is, and probably about 35%, 40% away from where we were at the beginning of the day. So it's interesting to kind of take a look to see how the market is reacting to this. But our job is to make sure that we get the facts out here, folks. So that, my friends, is what we are going to do. This is what we are going to do. All right. Got that. Okay. All right, let's check chat here. Mr. Rafferty says this day will be like launch day. The bridge will get clogged up. Pretty sure the bridge is already clogged up. I know a lot of people are trying to sell this. I've been trying to buy and swap for PLS and can't. Yeah, it's going to be difficult, folks. There's just so many people that are on PulseX right now. The bridge, yeah, I had the bridge pulled up. Let's check the bridge here. Okay, so it looks like of what's deposited right now. So the bridge is getting a backlog right now. It looks like only 86.6% is being processed. There's a lot of people pinging this stuff, guys. It's going to be slow. Just imagine launch all over again. And quite frankly, that's what you're going to be dealing with. I don't know what else to tell you. So I don't think it's a case where nobody's shut anything down or anything like that. There's just a massive amount of demand. So we're going to see that sort of thing happen again. So just be aware of that, folks. You know, if you want to buy more, then you're going to buy more. If you want to sell, then you're going to sell. But it's just going to be slow going regardless of what you decide to do here. All right. Limit order filled, limited order filled, limited order filled. Sup degens. SEC lawsuit seems to be the problem. Was there something hanging in the air? Rags, if the rumors are true, I'm going to see you Friday. What slippage are you using? Let's see here. Good, bad, ugly, regardless. It's all stuff that gets press and eyeballs. So disappointed to see people attack RH. Guys, listen, you have to expect this to happen. People are going to go crazy on Hex. This is what's going to happen. Okay. And this is going to happen because of the reputation that we have around cryptocurrency. It's because of the gladiator mentality that occurred, and people will take every opportunity to attack you viciously. And it's just, you have to expect it. And really, you got to be okay with it, because if you're not okay with it, you're going to be on Twitter for the next who knows how long, just getting beat up left and right by people. All right. I would really just try to keep a focus and not worry about all that stuff, because you are getting the facts right now. And I doubt that anybody that's going to war with you on Twitter is going to look into the documentation. Most people don't. Harvey Diaz, Rags, don't worry, you still have Texan. Buying more. Alpha Time, betas, listen up. Today's payout is going to be like 8 hex per T-share. Of course, my internet is down during a 63% dip. Man, this makes it more difficult to onboard now. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. Okay. It's going to be very, very difficult. Let me ask you, Brandon, did you see anything sold on the blockchain from those sacrifices addresses? Did I see anything sold? I saw them moved to different addresses, but I think they were covered up, so couldn't see. So I don't know what they see, but they obviously, you know, like I said, they got subpoenas and they go in and they dive in and get information. So they're alleging that $12 million was stolen out of over $1 billion. Or they defrauded investors, not stolen. Got to use proper language here. That's important. Crypto Stylist says, stay strong, fam. Maybe more people go to see the highest of stakes now. I think that could be the case. Worth noting that it's coming from the same offices as the inquiries. Yeah, so the inquiries that were sent out by that same guy, whoever we were talking about earlier. So they're on this is their case. This is what they're doing. Yo, Rags, the dip is already being bought back. The bridge worked. Took about 22 minutes for me to be able to claim. All right, and I'm just getting some information from you guys. Only 12 million. Guy's going to... All right, Fatal Fury says, only 12 million. Guy is going to jail. Fingers crossed. The world would be a better place, that's for sure. Hex is going to get delisted from DeFi exchanges. Richard Hart was right. Fatal Fury, obviously Fatal Fury is one of those people that are in the camp of being extremely upset. So thanks for trying to counter the FUD. Guys, what I'm trying to do is just give you the truth. Am I trying to counter the FUD? I'm trying to counter the lies. So I'll give you the truth so you know exactly what it is. No expectations. All right, I know you guys want to get more into this, so I'm going to shut up now. I'll get back to chat here in a little bit. All right, Richard Schuler, also known as Richard Hart, is an American-born internet marketer, content creator, and a serial entrepreneur. Where's my damn water? Oh, there it is. Serial entrepreneur living in Finland. Hart operates through 3 unincorporated alter ego entities. So again, This comes up again. That unincorporated word is going to be very, very important. Okay. They're saying that, okay, we don't actually have a company to go attack. So they have to use the term unincorporated alter ego entities. Okay. So I think that's their way, their justification to go after Richard. And they're saying that those unincorporated alter ego entities are Hex, Pulse Chain, and PulseX. Beginning in December 2019 and continuing for at least the next 3 years, Hart raised more than $1 billion in the unregistered offer and sale of crypto asset securities to retail investors in the U.S. and abroad. Okay. So that was talked about in the summary that the press release we saw earlier. Hart engaged in 3 separate offerings: Hex, Pulse Chain, and PulseX. Each was and is a crypto asset security. And Pulse Chain and PulseX are crypto asset security platforms designed, created, and maintained by Hart. Hart continually touted these investments as a pathway to grandiose wealth for investors, claiming that Hex, for example, was built to be the highest appreciating asset that has ever existed in the history of man, which he has said. We've all heard that. Hart hired and directed developers to build and maintain the software framework to support Hex, Pulse Chain, and PulseX. So what they're trying to do, based on my research, based on what I've seen in the past, they're trying to tie Richard through the Howey Test to basically pass that one leg of the Howey Test. And yes, pass. It's pass. They want to tie him to the centralized planning, a centralized party, a party that has something to do with the development, that is responsible for the development of something that basically could pass as a security for that reason in the future. So I think that they're creating this right now and trying to paint that picture. Okay, so Hart hired and directed developers to build and maintain the software. Although Hart claimed these investments were for the vague purpose of supporting free speech, so they're already attacking that vague purpose, he did not disclose that he used millions of dollars of Pulse Chain investors' funds to buy luxury goods for himself. Hart, Hex, Pulse Chain, and PulseX violated the federal securities laws through the unregistered offer and sale of securities. Additionally, through the misappropriation of investor assets, Hart and Pulse Chain defrauded investors. Okay, so all right, so we'll read this again and we'll kind of pick this apart. He did not disclose that he used millions of dollars. And one thing that we know about him, and he does not talk about what he does with investors' money. So you could say, well, Brandon, you saw this stuff that he had, and you saw the diamond and this and that. How could you not expect? It's not about expecting. It's about not knowing. And that was important. It's important to point out, by the way. Additionally, through the misappropriation of investors' assets, Hart and Pulse Chain defrauded. So we were defrauded. Beginning in December 2019, Hart offered and sold Hex tokens, promising investors many incentives and bonuses. So the bonuses, the rewards, the multipliers, things like that. While marketing Hex as the first high-yield blockchain certificate of deposit launched on the Ethereum network. Additionally, Hart touted a Hex feature that he developed and dubbed staking, which he described as allowing Hex investors to lock up their Hex tokens for a designated period of time in return for additional Hex tokens at the end of the lockup period. So it looks like, obviously, just connecting 2 and 2 together, it seems like Richard knew about this a long time ago. The SEC probably served him or served a family member or, to get it to him. I don't know how that works exactly. Maybe they served him online. They can serve him through Twitter. But it looks like that that's why he changed it to mining. Okay, so he knew about this beforehand. Hart claimed that investors who participated in the so-called staking of Hex tokens could earn an average of 38% annual return in the form of additional Hex tokens. So they got that right. So again, that's the way that the contract is coded, based on a max stake length. Again, I don't even think they're not saying that they're not saying that was a lie. I think what they're saying is they're just painting the picture that there's staking, there's return, and again, they're just reinforcing the Howey. That's what they're trying to do here. Between December 2019 and November of 2020, Hart via the Hex public wallet address, accepted more than 2.3 million ETH, putatively from investors worth more than $678 million at the time of deposit. In exchange for their investment, Hart issued Hex tokens to investors. It appears that 94 to 97% of those ETH deposits, however, were recycling transactions directed by Hart or other insiders. So it looks like they don't actually know who it was, but they can see the addresses. Okay. It appears that 94 to 97% of these ETH deposits were recycling transactions. If you guys, this isn't like, this isn't new. Okay. If you've been around here, and I don't see anything other than the actual amount that they say that Richard defrauded the community with, which is $12 million out of $1 billion. I don't think anything else that I've seen up until this point is news to me personally. I don't think. Okay, so this enabled Hart or other insiders, again, they don't know who owns those wallets, to gain control of a large number of Hex tokens while creating the false impression of significant trading volume and organic demand for Hex tokens. Significant trading volume, and that's interesting too, because it's always been a thing where Hex doesn't ever have significant trading volume, and we've been attacked for not having significant trading volume. And that's, I think that was due originally to the staking feature. So, again, this is just based off internet research here, so I don't know. For both the Pulse Chain and PulseX offerings, Hart urged investors to invest by depositing their crypto assets to the Pulse Chain and PulseX public wallet addresses in exchange for a promise to deliver PLS and PLSX tokens in the future. Okay, so we know that. Okay. Investors invested more than $354 million by depositing their crypto assets to the Pulse Chain public wallet address in exchange for the promise of future delivery of PLS tokens. In connection with PulseX, investors invested more than $676 million by depositing their crypto assets to the PulseX public wallet address in exchange for the promise of future delivery of PLSX tokens. Okay, that's exactly what happened. People knew that that was going to happen. Hart is familiar with the U.S. securities laws and the test established in SEC versus W.J. Howey for determining what is and what is not a security specifically. So he frequently makes veiled references about why investors can expect profits while also making tongue-in-cheek disavowals. But his efforts to obfuscate are unavailing. Each of the Hex, Pulse Chain, and PulseX offerings involved investments of money in a common enterprise with the reasonable expectation of profits to be derived based on the work of others. Okay, that's what this is all about. Accordingly, the Hex, Pulse Chain, and PulseX offerings were securities offerings. Okay, so they're saying that based on everything that they've just laid out, this was a securities offering. At no time did Hart or anyone else associated with these offerings register the Hex, Pulse Chain, or PulseX offerings with the commission. All right. So number 7. Additionally, Hart and Pulse Chain defrauded investors by misappropriating at least $12.1 million of Pulse Chain investor funds. Instead of using these investor funds to develop and market the Pulse Chain network, or even to fulfill Hart's explicit statement that invested funds supported freedom of speech, Hart and Pulse Chain used at least $12.1 million, Hart and Pulse Chain. So that's interesting. So they put Pulse Chain. Now, Pulse Chain, they've defined at the beginning, was a representation of Hart's alter ego. So Hart and Pulse Chain used at least $12.1 million of investor funds for Hart's personal luxury purchases, including a 555 carat diamond, expensive watches, and high-end automobiles. Okay. Through their actions, defendants Hart and Pulse Chain violated, and unless enjoined, will continue to violate the anti-fraud provisions. So this is legal stuff here. So that maybe they can't, maybe they have to use defendants Hart and Pulse Chain unless enjoined. So maybe they can't directly tie him to Pulse Chain, like legally. I don't know what that means. Maybe you guys can provide some clarity there. The anti-fraud provisions of the federal securities laws, namely Section 10B. Okay, so what is this? 10B of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. Okay. let's check out what 10B is. 10B is they prohibit the material misrepresentations and misleading omissions in connection with the purchase or sale of securities. So misleading, I mean, and this is interesting here. Was it misleading? Did he say one thing and do the other? I think the point that they're trying to make here is that he was supposed to be using this money. What did they say? For the support of freedom of speech, and they're saying that, and that's kind of a, in my mind, in my uneducated mind, that's kind of a stretch there. So I don't know. Let's keep going here. Additionally, through their actions, defendants, all violated unless enjoined, will continue to violate the securities registration provisions of federal securities laws. To protect the public from further harm and fraudulent activity, the SEC brings this action against defendants and seeks a permanent injunctive relief, disgorgement of ill-gotten gains, plus prejudgment interest and civil penalties. Okay. Permanent injunctive relief. So this is not a temporary injunctive relief. This is permanent. They're saying they want it shut down. So I don't know in here if they're going to actually show and define what that is. So we'll check it here. Disgorgement of ill-gotten gains plus prejudgment interest and civil penalties. All right. So this looks like they're just, it seems like they're trying to go all out with him here. And they're trying to get that money, I guess, sent back or whatever the case may be. So as outlined, what I just read here, do you guys think in chat, what do you guys think so far their case? Is it a strong case? Do you think that do you feel like you guys have been misled? What are your thoughts? Let me know in chat here. Defendants. Richard J. Schuler, a.k.a. Richard Hart, age 43, is a U.S. citizen who, upon information and belief, currently resides in Helsinki, Finland. He is the founder of Hex, PulseChain, and PulseX. Hex is an ERC20 token and an uncorporated entity established by Hart, which serves as an alter ego entity for Hart. Okay, so again, legalese, they've got to connect those two. Hart operates Hex's website at hex.com, hex.win, and ethhex.com. Offerings for and sales of Hex or Hex tokens have not been registered with the commission. All right, PulseChain purports to be an Ethereum fork and a layer 1 blockchain that Hart released on May 12th, 2023. PulseChain is an unincorporated entity established by Hart that serves as an alter ego entity for Hart. Hart operates PulseChain's website at pulsechain.com. PLS is the native token for PulseChain. Offerings for and sales of PulseChain and PLS tokens have not been registered with the commission. PulseX is a self-described decentralized protocol in the Ethereum blockchain that Hart developed to serve as PulseChain's so-called decentralized crypto asset trading platform through a fork of the Uniswap platform. Rather than employing a traditional order book and matching engine to execute orders for securities, Uniswap's core feature is an automated market maker, a smart contract on Ethereum's blockchain that allows liquidity providers to pool assets for sales and allows people to purchase those assets. So it's interesting. Is this like also, are they just kind of, is this a veiled jab at Uniswap as well? I know that there has been some FUD coming from the SEC about decentralized exchanges. Is that what this is? I don't know. Hart deployed PulseX on May 12, 2023. PulseX is an unincorporated entity established by Hart that serves as an alter ego entity for Hart. Hart also operates a website for PulseX at pulsex.com. PLSX is the native token for PulseX. Offerings for and sales of PulseX and PulseX tokens have not been registered with the commission. The commission brings this action pursuant to authority conferred upon it by Section 20B and 20D of the Securities Acts. So here's the thing. One thing that you guys can do. Let's see here. Let's see what these are. We're going to get into the details because we can. You guys are hanging out. Let's figure it out. Okay. And they said what? What was this? 20B and D. Okay, so 20B, so they're bringing their action with the authority written here, I guess. It shall be unlawful for any person directly or indirectly to do any act or thing which would be unlawful for a person. Okay, so it's breaking the laws, what they said. That's the securities laws. And then D, liability for trading in securities while in possession of material, non-public information. Wherever communicating or purchasing or selling a security while in possession of material, non-public information would violate or result in liability to any purchaser or seller of the security under any provisions of this chapter, any rule, regulation thereunder, such conduct is in connection with a purchase or sale of a put, call, straddle option privilege or securities-based swap agreement with respect to such security or with respect to a group or index of securities, including such security shall... Okay. All right. So that's what that means. Let's keep going here. In connection with the conduct described in this complaint, defendants, directly or indirectly, made use of the mails or the means or instruments of transportation or communication in interstate commerce, including but not limited to email, wiring of funds, and use of brokerage accounts. All right. Venue is proper in this district. They're talking about the district that they filed this in because of many of the crypto asset transactions described herein took place on Uniswap, so-called decentralized crypto asset trading platform whose developers are headquartered in Brooklyn. Hart specifically designed PulseX as a fork of Uniswap. Additionally, at least one investor of the Pulse Chain and PulseX, resides in this district. Factual allegations. All right, we're going to get into the factual allegations portions of this now. All right, I'm going to scroll down. You guys are blowing it up right now. If you guys just joined, what we're doing right now is we are going over the facts. We're going to let you guys make the decisions about what you think about this. I am not any sort of lawyer. I am not any sort of person that has any professional knowledge of what's happening here. Anything that I say here is just my full-blown opinion. I want to make sure you guys know that. And we're just reporting exactly what we're seeing here. We're reporting. What do you guys think about the XRP case? How do you think the XRP case is going to affect this case? You know, are they going to use this case as leverage in the XRP case? It'll be interesting to see here. All right. All right. Richard Hart was born Richard J. Schuler and raised in Florida. We know that. Hart is an internet marketer, a prolific content creator who claims to have founded and managed several successful internet startups, including a business he claims employed 150 people and had $60 million in annual sales. Hart is the founder and creator of Hex and the Hex token, a crypto asset security he designed to operate on the Ethereum network. Hart has often touted Hex as the first high-yield block certificate of deposit. Hart first marketed Hex to public investors at the Crypto Finance Live conference in November 2018, more than a year before his first sales of the Hex tokens. Hart was the sole promoter of Hex and appeared on several online platforms to promote it before he launched the offering of Hex tokens. Hart promoted Hex, the contract code, various incentive and referral bonuses, and Hex so-called staking feature across multiple online and social media platforms, but particularly in YouTube live stream videos. Hart continued to market Hex through 2019, and during his offer and sale of Hex tokens, which commenced on or about December 3rd of 2019 and continued through at least November 19th of 2020. Okay. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, hold on just a second. I will be right back. You guys can chill out here for a Okay, back guys. Sorry about that. Sorry. All right. So, okay. So this part, they're outlining that investors reasonably expected to derive profits from Hex tokens. Hex investors could derive increased value by holding their HEX tokens and waiting for them to appreciate based on principles of supply and demand. Okay. All right. So guys, I would say that this applies to all of cryptocurrency, I believe. A so-called staking option that would allow investors to lock up their HEX tokens in order to receive additional HEX tokens in the future, depending on a number of factors, including the duration of the token holder's so-called stake. HEX so-called staking mechanism does not involve validating transactions on the blockchain. What? What are you talking about, Willis? Oh, okay. I see what they're saying. So what they're making the comparison to Ethereum. Okay, so Ethereum, you stake Ethereum. Okay, so they're just saying it's not the same as the way that Ethereum works by validating transactions of the blockchain. On Hex.com website, Hart analogized his so-called staking process to conventional interest payments and investment returns. Hart told potential investors on many occasions, including via several YouTube live streams, that HEX investors could stake their HEX tokens through a process in which the tokens are sent to the Ethereum blockchain's Genesis address. Okay, so the Ethereum block. So we're talking about the HEX OA, or the HEX address. That address had no owner, and therefore assets that are sent to it cannot be transferred out. In exchange for investors locking up their HEX tokens, Hart promised that the HEX smart contract would pay the investors' investment returns in the form of additional HEX tokens to be delivered in the future. All right, that makes sense. Hart has reportedly explained during a YouTube live stream interview in December 2019 that the purpose of this form of purported staking was to incentivize investors to lock up their HEX tokens, which reduced the number of HEX tokens in circulation to drive up price. Based on videos that I've seen, based on what I've heard, this is correct. Okay, that's what he said. And what was it? You know, he says, in some ways they say, what did he say? He said on the Bitcoin network, you have miners that are incentivized. They receive additional Bitcoin to secure the network. And he has said in the past that by staking HEX, you're basically incentivized to stake HEX to help the actual price of HEX. He said something to that effect in the past. Hart and HEX repeatedly advertise, including on Hex.com, social media, and in interviews, that investors would receive an average investment return of 38% in exchange for so-called staking their HEX tokens. Yeah, based on max stake length, this is correct. Hart explained that this self-described staking protocol benefited all holders of HEX tokens by increasing the token price based on supply and demand principles. Okay. Do they know something we don't? If they do, I'd imagine they'd put it in here. But I think that's a logical statement, what they just made there. What do you guys think? Hart emphasized that investors would profit from HEX tokens. Hart has repeatedly made statements on Hex.com. Again, this is the Howey Test stuff. All right, so some of you guys might not know what the Howey Test is. All right, so let's go over this. And they're just making the case that he passed all the legs of the Howey Test. Do you want to fail the Howey Test? Let's see if they got it here. Howey Test is based on a ruling from the SEC versus W.J. Howey, which reached the Supreme Court in 1946. Howey Company sold tracts of citrus groves to buyers in Florida, who would then lease back the land to Howey. Company staff would tend to the groves and sell fruit on behalf of the owners. Both parties shared in the revenue. Most buyers had no experience in agriculture and were not required to tend to the land themselves. However, Howey had failed to register the transactions, and the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission intervened. The court's final ruling determined the leaseback arrangement qualified as an investment contract. So what is this? What are the four legs? The first is an investment of money. Okay, so you got to pass all of these to be a security. Was there investment of money? Was it in a common enterprise? So notice that I think the reason that they are tying Richard, they're using that, what was that term? Okay, the alias. Richard Hart is actually present through the alias of Hex or Pulse Chain. So they have to tie him to that common enterprise. They got to tie his name because there is actually no company. So in a common enterprise with the expectation of profit to be derived from the work of others. An investment of money in a common enterprise with the expectation of profit to be derived from the efforts of others. So I think that everything that they're outlining right now is trying to make the case that, obviously this is the in a common enterprise part. I think that's what they're trying to make the case here. So leading up to the Hex offering, Hart touted on November 8th, 2019 YouTube live stream that if you want to get rich, Hex is built for that. A refrain that would repeat many times. Okay. Hart pumped Hex's capacity for investment gain, claiming at Hex.com until at least November 1st, 2020, that Hex is designed to surpass ETH, which did 10,000x price in 2.5 years. It's working. So far, Hex's price went up 115x in 129 days. On December 2nd, 2019, during a 7-hour live stream on YouTube hours before the Hex offering commenced, Hart stated that Hex was built to outperform Ethereum and Bitcoin and all other cryptocurrencies. Hart added that Hex was built to be the highest appreciating asset that has ever existed in the history of man. That's the design intention. So, again, they're not saying that didn't happen. You notice that? Like, okay, so Hex went up 10,000x. Okay. They're not saying that didn't happen. What they're just making the case that this qualifies as a security based on the Howey test. Okay, so this is interesting. I've not read this part. Hart personally undertook efforts he claimed would make Hex successful. From the outset, Hart controlled and continues to control nearly all aspects of the Hex ecosystem. In a November 17th, 2019 live stream on YouTube, Hart shared with potential investors how-to videos that he created to explain how investors could purchase Hex tokens during the offering period and stake their Hex tokens. In that live stream, Hart also shared additional efforts he was undertaking, including the creation of more walkthrough videos and ringing up some more exchanges and whales he knows in order to make Hex launch successful. In the same video, Hart disclosed that he directed certain developers to work on the Hex code to the extent that their work benefited the ecosystem. Okay, so this, if we're looking at the Howey test, they're trying to make the derived from the work of others. That's probably what they're trying to say there. Okay. As recently as the January 2023 Hex conference, which was virtual and available on YouTube, Hart stated regarding Hex, I want to have the best performing asset that ever existed. I want to be the best crypto founder that's ever existed. I like owning the world's largest diamond. I like having a coin that went up 1,000,000% that's had 3 years of flawless operation that's never been hacked. The front end has never gone down. In an earlier YouTube live stream on July 16th of 2019, Hart admitted how important his efforts were to ensuring that the Hex token, once launched, would be available for trading on so-called crypto asset platforms. He promised that he was going to personally call everyone and see where he could get Hex listed. In fact, before the close of the Hex offering, Hart contacted representatives of a so-called crypto asset trading platform at least twice through private Twitter messages. So what the SEC probably did was subpoena his Twitter records, and they were able to go back and check all the Twitter messages and all the Twitter records. And that's probably where they got that information. In those messages, Hart discussed the potential promotion of Hex tokens on the platform through Twitter, and also commented on Hex being the #1 volume liquidity pool on the platform. And I'm assuming, wonder which one. Are they talking about Uniswap? They wouldn't be talking about Uniswap, I don't think. If they're calling somebody, I don't know. Interesting. It appears that on December 15, 2019, the platform began listing Hex tokens on its so-called decentralized crypto asset trading platform as a result of Hart's direct efforts. Maybe they are talking about Uniswap. They talk about Uniswap there? That's what I was thinking. Maybe they are. First, I didn't think so, but then they said decentralized crypto asset trading platform. Maybe it's somewhere else. I don't know. I was not around back then. The Hex offering from December 3rd, 2019 to at least November 19th, 2020. Hex and Hart offered and sold Hex tokens to investors in exchange for ETH. As part of the Hex offering, Hex and Hart accepted investments of ETH from the public, including from investors in the United States, and delivered Hex tokens in return. During the Hex offering period, investors purchased Hex tokens by transferring ETH to a Hex wallet address on the Ethereum blockchain. This wallet is known as the Hex contract address. Hart provided the Hex CA to developers so that it would be programmed into Hex's contract code. Initially, investors who wanted to obtain Hex tokens purchased them through the online portal called the Adoption Amplifier. Yes, we're all aware of that. Hart designed, controlled, and promoted the Adoption Amplifier to potential Hex investors. And Hart oversaw the development of Hex's code and its smart contract. Hart publicly claimed that he relied on game theory in designing the purchase process for Hex tokens to reward longer, larger, and earlier investments. For example, Hex and Hart made available only a predetermined number of Hex tokens for purchase each day. For the first day of the Hex offering period, the predetermined number was 1 billion. Investors who wanted to purchase Hex tokens sent their ETH to the Hex CA, and the Hex tokens were distributed to these investors based on how much total ETH the investors sent to the Hex CA on that particular day. Then the predetermined amount of Hex tokens. Okay, so they're just describing the adoption amplifier and they're describing the initial distribution. That's what all this is about here. All right. Hart designed incentives to generate investor interest. During the Hex offering period, Hart designed and implemented many incentives and bonuses to lure investors. To lure. Okay, adjectives are important here. And verbs are important. Including the promise of additional future Hex tokens. For example, Hart used bonus payments to encourage investors to increase their investments in order to make profits from the price appreciation that Hart told investors to expect. Hex.com promoted the Hex ecosystem and at least through November 25, 2020 stated Hex aligns incentives, so the more people that more participate, the better everyone does. Okay. Hex conducted 2 separate airdrops during the Hex offering period to generate additional investor interest by promoting Hex to the broader crypto asset market. Via these airdrops, Hart directed Hex developers to deposit Hex tokens into a large number of wallets that he identified as significant holders of Bitcoin, even though the people controlling those Bitcoin wallets had not requested Hex tokens. Okay, and this is a practice that is done all over crypto. I will point that out. But again, it's not about whether it's right or wrong. It's about whether they can prove that he passed all the legs of the Howey test, I think. But I'm stupid. Don't listen to me. Hart orchestrated a similar airdrop on a later date to a list of wallet addresses that Hart identified as large holders of ETH. If those wallet holders accepted the airdrop Hex tokens from Hex, Hart required that 90% of those Hex tokens be staked in the process described in more detail. All right. So, okay, they're going further into this. All right, let me check chat here. I mean, there's way too much for me to read here, but I'll kind of scroll to the bottom. All right. Eric Wall must be having a great day. His sheets will need cleaning. This is massive. Yeah, this is massive exposure. Gym time. Thanks for the stream. I still hate you though. Have fun all. FUD the FUD. I'm still buying. I'm not going anywhere. Somebody says. Why haven't you wrenched me, Rags? Rafferty, the only wrench in here. Thoughts Child, you don't understand. I don't give out wrenches. Okay. I just don't give them out. There's a process. If you want to figure out the process, you better ask an admin. Optimal timeline, get them Rags, span these FUD trolls, Gary the Protector. I'm trying to find somebody who's, yeah, there's massive amount of FUD everywhere. Uptime, okay, uptime. CoffeeZilla just tweeted it. Yeah, this is big. It's gonna blow up everywhere. It'd be interesting. Like, here's what's gonna be interesting. Okay, it's gonna be interesting to see whether or not some of these people are able to think objectively and step outside and see what's actually happening here. I don't know if they're going to be able to or not. I don't know if they're going to see this as an attack on crypto, but there's a lot of enemies of Hex out there. And if you think that's a false statement, you're just not living in reality. Paul's Rags, this is community driven. You can get PLS from any chain. Richard Hart will have to spend $200 million to beat the SEC. Also, I have no expectations to gain profit off the work of others. Honestly, sounds like a really weak case, to be honest. I would expect way stronger claims coming from the SEC. Didn't think they were so weak. The only thing that I see so far, folks, is really they're trying to make the point that Richard Hart is let me go in here. I just want to say it. They're trying to say that he is essentially he's the corporation. He's the centralized entity. Yeah, doesn't matter either way. All right, let's just keep going here. Okay. Pulse chain development offering. After the Hex offering concluded in November of 2020, Hart started developing Pulse chain, which Hart publicly claimed would be a fork of the Ethereum network. The Pulse chain website, pulsechain.com, which Hart controls, describes Pulse chain as everybody's blowing me up, man. Why's everybody blowing me up? I know why everybody's blowing me up. Okay. Hart orchestrated an offering to raise investor funds to develop Pulse chain. During the Pulse chain offering period, Hart and Pulse chain instructed investors to invest in Pulse chain by, as Hart called it, sacrificing or depositing. So they're saying they're depositing, which it is. It's a deposit. Now, is sacrificing the same? Not really. It's a different, but you are depositing various forms of crypto assets, including ETH and others, to the Pulse chain sacrifice address, the Pulse chain SA. Through Pulse chain's website, Hart instructed investors on how to sacrifice their crypto assets to purchase Pulse, PLS, Pulse chain's native token. In exchange for an investment, a deposit of crypto assets, Hart promised to deliver PLS tokens to the investor in the future tied to the amount of an investor's investment in the Pulse chain offering. Hart represented that the calculation of the promised number of PLS tokens to be delivered to an investor was based in part on the amount of the investor's investment or the sacrifice, how early in the Pulse chain offering period the investment took place. As a result, Hart incentivized investors to invest in Pulse chain early. Okay, okay. PLS tokens were delivered to investors on or about May 12th, 2023, when Pulse chain was deployed publicly, or as Hart described, available on mainnet. Guys, I'll point this out too. This sort of operation is not, it's not unique to Richard. Okay, there's a bonding curve, and if you search for bonding curve in crypto, this is one way that people distribute tokens out, and that's kind of what they're referring to here. According to Hart and Pulse chain, because PLS tokens must be used for gas or the transaction fees on Pulse chain, PLS investors could make a profit from that demand simply by holding PLS. Okay. Did he say that? Where has he said that? If you just, because Pulse chain is used for gas, you can just hold Pulse chain and it's going to go up. Is that what they're making the claim? Is there like did he quote him anywhere? I've never heard him say that. That's why I'm curious. Hart frequently stated that the purpose of Pulse chain was to save Hex token holders from the high gas fees they were being forced to pay for Hex transactions on Ethereum, which is true. But again, it's not about being true. Upon Pulse chain's release, Pulse chain investors received a Pulse chain compatible copy of all their Ethereum network crypto assets through an airdrop, in addition to the newly issued PLS tokens described on paragraphs 51 through 53. To date, more than 59,000 deposits to the Pulse chain sacrifice address have been identified, reflecting more than $354 million of crypto assets invested in Pulse chain. including crypto assets invested by investors in the United States. Neither Hart nor PulseChain has registered the PulseChain offerings with the commission. Hart emphasized that investors would profit from PLS tokens and directly tied the value of PLS tokens to development of PulseChain. Okay, so just reading all of this information, really for the past 20 minutes or so, they're outlining the a new cryptocurrency, a new layer one being developed, and then they are outlining a new layer one being distributed. That's what they're saying here. And then they're trying to make that case that he's in charge of all of it. Which obviously he is. On the PulseChain website that he controls, in May 16th of 2020 live stream on his YouTube channel, Hart touted the various benefits and value of PulseChain, including that it purportedly had faster transactions, which it does, cheaper gas fees, which it does. Hart indicated that PLS investors would profit from the transaction fees paid for crypto asset transactions on PulseChain. So I guess that's what they're referring to, but they don't quote him, so I'd be interested to go back and check and see that. PulseChain operates by purportedly paying 75% of all PLS tokens generated through gas fees to the PLS validators. The other 25% of the fees are sent to the Ethereum blockchain Genesis address. Here's what's funny. This is funny too. If they call Pulse a security, are they going to call Ethereum a security? That's kind of what's interesting here too, because PulseChain is a Ethereum 2.0 fork, and it uses a lot of the same functions, if not all the same functions, with a couple modifications. So again, guys, you got to understand that all this is very, very connected. It's very connected. The other 25% of the fees are sent to the Ethereum blockchain's Genesis address. Any PLS investor can become a validator by staking or locking up 5 million PLS tokens. Now, this is a little bit different, right, than Ethereum, but it'll be interesting. Similar to the Hex offering, Hart told PulseChain investors during the PulseChain offering period that they could expect to make profits by investing in PulseChain. For example, on August 1st, 2021, via YouTube video he posted during the PulseChain offering, Hart claimed that a 14,000x is a reasonable estimate for what could be possible for Pulse, because that's what Ethereum did, and this is a very similar thing but better. So he's always said that. He's like, if you look back at other things that were built, and this is very similar to it, he says what could be possible, maybe that's possible, at least that much. So that's what they were saying. At the 2023 Hex conference on January 9th, 2023, 4 months before the release of PulseChain, Hart explicitly referred to the value of PulseChain as a return on investment. Using the phrase ROI, Hart stated, PulseChain is going to launch at zero. It's pretty hard to beat the ROI of something that goes from zero to anything else because, it's, in theory, it's like infinite ROI. PLS tokens derive their value from Hart's efforts. There it is. Okay, PLS tokens derive their value from Hart's efforts in developing and releasing PulseChain and in making it successful. In fact, investors did not receive their PLS tokens until PulseChain was released on May 12, 2023, almost 2 years after the end of the official PulseChain offering period. One PulseChain investor who resides in Brooklyn confirmed that he invested in PulseChain because he believed he would receive PLS tokens in exchange for his investment that he expected, based on Hart's statements that PLS tokens would increase value. All right, Hart misappropriated PulseChain investor funds. During the PulseChain offering period, as extended, see footnote 6, investors invested more than $354 million of crypto assets into PulseChain between July 15th, 2021 and March 3rd, 2022. However, it appears as if Hart transferred or directed the transfer of approximately $217 million in PulseChain offering proceeds, consisting of various types of cryptos. Okay, from the PulseChain sacrifice address to a privately held wallet, which is true. On January 26, 2022, after the official closing of the PulseChain offering, more than $26.5 million worth of Tether was transferred from the private wallet in 2022, back and forth transactions resulting in approximately $26 million in ETH being deposited to the private wallet. Next, it appears as if Hart transferred or directed the transfer of $26 million in ETH through a crypto asset mixer that facilitates anonymous transactions by obfuscating their origin, destination, counterparties, and then through at least 50 intermediary wallets before ending up on 3 purported crypto asset platforms. As discussed below in paragraphs 62 and 63, it appears that Hart controlled and ultimately benefited in the form of luxury purchases from these transactions. Notably, Hart previously discussed his familiarity with the mixer in 2019 live stream video on YouTube as highlighted in its purported anonymity protections. Okay, so this is interesting here. So why would they, just me thinking off the top of my head, notably, Hart previously discussed his familiarity with the mixer in December 2nd, 2019 live stream video. So why are they saying that, okay, that he's familiar with it as evidenced by him talking about it on stream? Maybe that's because they don't know if it was actually him who did it, and they just have to make the case in court. There's like, well, he talked about this same mixer, and these transactions were done. It has to be him. And again, this isn't like, I'm not sticking up for him. I'm just saying these are just things that I'm noticing in here. And it's interesting to see how all this tends to play out in court, if it goes to court. Following the mixer transactions, Hart misappropriated at least $12.1 million of Pulse Chain investor assets. Okay. So they're trying to make the case that Hart used that money to go purchase things. Okay. They're making that case, and he used about at least 12.1 million. So they would use 12.1 as a very specific number. It's because they maybe have evidence of that. For example, on August 3rd, 2021, Hart spent $337,000 of Pulse Chain investor assets on the purchase of a luxury car from a European luxury car dealer. Can they, and I guess my question is too, how can they prove that that is investor funds and not his own funds? I don't know. I guess that would come out if it went to court. On August 29th, 2021, on the 24th of 2021, Hart transferred $534,000 to the same luxury car dealer for the purchase of a McLaren sports car. On August 29th, 2021, Hart purchased a 2020 white Ferrari Roma for $314,000, $125,000. Okay. So they got, I guess at the very least, they have records of his bank account. Okay. I'm not sure if they can necessarily subpoena records from overseas or not. I don't think that's possible unless there's some type of agreement that allow them to do so with law enforcement agencies over there. Don't know. Hart also purchased 5 watches in a separate transaction. Hart's first purchase on January 20, 2022 included $285,000 Rolex Submariner Oyster, $550. Yep. So all these watches he is shown and he is touted extensively on stream. Collectively, from the mixer transactions alone, Hart spent nearly $7.2 million of Pulse Chain investor assets on luxury watches and high-end automobiles that he purchased in the United States, Finland, and Estonia. So that answers a part of the question. So part of that was in the United States. In additional transactions occurring after the mixer transfers, Hart misappropriated approximately $5 million of Pulse Chain investor assets, sending a majority of the assets to Sotheby's in February 2022 to purchase the the 555 carat black diamond called the Enigma, purportedly the largest black diamond in the world. Hart purchased the diamond for £3,161,000, $4.28 million. Often discussing the development work surrounding Pulse Chain, Hart gave investors a reasonable expectation that their funds would be used to develop Pulse Chain. He also tied investor receipts of PLS tokens to the ultimate release of Pulse Chain. I noticed that they don't speak anywhere about anything about the no expectations, the no expectations wallet. That's interesting because he does say that. Now, whether or not that's going to stand up in court, I don't know. Obviously they don't want that talked about because they haven't talked about it really much at all. But he has said that many times. Have they even talked about it? Have they? I don't know. Let me check. So nowhere in here, I just did a search, do they talk about no expectations whatsoever, which Richard says constantly. Again, I don't know if that would hold up at all, but they don't say that anywhere. They don't mention that he is, how many hundreds or thousands of times has he said that? I don't know. Hart described the work that he and his developers had done and were doing, as well as work that remained to be done to bring PulseChain and PLS out of the testing phase and into mainnet launch phase. Reasonable investors rightfully expected that if PulseChain network was not finished and thereafter maintained by Hart and his team of developers, it would collapse. Reasonable investors rightfully expected that if the PulseChain network was not finished and thereafter maintained by Hart and his team of developers, it would collapse along with the value of PLS. Who are these reasonable investors? Hart, and I guess that comes out eventually. Hart frequently claimed that investment in PulseChain was linked to free speech. For example, stating on July 21st, 2021, that if you believe in free speech as a protected human right and blockchains are speech, then you're sacrificing to prove that you believe that. Meanwhile, Hart never disclosed to PulseChain investors that any investor assets, any investor assets, let alone more than $12 million, would be used to fund his purchases for personal luxury goods. Hart also never disclosed that $217 million of investor assets would immediately be transferred from the PulseChain SA address. You know, what was said on many occasions is that that was a form of marketing. I will point that out. That was a form of marketing to attract a certain type of investor. So that was said. Does that help or hurt his case? I don't know. And then it wasn't disclosed that $217 million of investors' assets would be immediately transferred from the PulseChain SA to a private wallet. Further, Hart used the so-called decentralized aggregator and the mixer to conceal his misappropriation of PulseChain investor assets for his own personal use. PulseChain development and offering. Around that time that Hart stated developing PulseChain, he also started developing PulseX. On the PulseX website, which Hart owns and controls, Hart described PulseX as a fork of Uniswap's so-called decentralized trading platform that would purportedly enable users to trade so-called PRC20 tokens offered and sold for trading on PulseChain. PulseX.com, Hart instructed investors on how to invest in PulseX by depositing crypto assets in exchange for PLSX. The PulseX's platform anticipated native token to be delivered to investors when PulseX launched. Hart sold PLSX tokens to the PulseX investors, including US-based investors, between December 29, 2021 and February 26, 2022. The offering period was unofficially extended until approximately April 6, 2022 to allow Hart to continue to accept investor assets like the PulseX offer period. Hart's pooled each investor's deposit of crypto assets in the PulseX SA. There have been more than 120,000 deposits totaling over $667 million in multiple crypto assets to the PulseX SA. This amount excludes any deposits of HEX tokens to the PulseX SA, which, as discussed in paragraph 37 above, may have been held by Hart or other insiders. PulseX.com states that PulseX will work like Uniswap and that every time people swap from one coin to another on PulseX, liquidity providers earn fees as a reward in the form of PulseX. Okay. I'm going to scroll through here and I'm going to see, guys, if you're curious where I'm at, I'm on page 22. So if you want to pick up here, I'm just scrolling through to see if there's anything. They're just outlining the whole process, exactly what happened here. They're not really, they're making some claims. As a result of reduced supply. Okay. Hart often repeated false claims that his offerings were not securities offerings. Although Hart frequently made superficial disclaimers about the status of his offerings under U.S. securities laws, the economic reality of these offerings and his promotion of the offerings were contrary to the disclaimers. In reality, as Hart has admitted, he sold HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX as potential avenues to investor wealth, and the success of these endeavors were completely dependent on his efforts and or the efforts of others, and not the efforts of the investors themselves. That's a pretty bold claim. So I'll just come out and say it. I'm surprised that they made that claim. Not only did they say that it was completely dependent on his efforts and or the efforts of others, developers, whatever the case, they're also saying that it's not on the efforts of the investors themselves. I find that very interesting. For example, on January 16th, 2022, YouTube live stream, Hart went through a list of incomplete tasks and development milestones that he and his developers needed to complete before Pulse Chain could be released. He also touted the development of milestones he had already attained. Okay. All right. All right, this is the claim. So plaintiff realleges and incorporates paragraphs 1. Okay, so this is the first claim for relief: fraud in connection with the purchase or sale of a security. And in this bottom part, the one that I skipped, it talks about the price of Hex. Interesting that they're taking. So this is Hex on Ethereum. They quoted the Hex on Ethereum as 0.008, down from a high of 0.56. They don't. Do they talk about the? There are two different assets too. Very interesting. So I wonder if that would be an issue in court. Because there's value in both chains. It's not just one. Plaintiff realleges and incorporates paragraphs 1 through 70. So this is the SEC is basically saying that they're realleging and incorporating paragraphs 1 through 76 of this complaint by reference as if set forth verbatim in this claim. So by engaging in the acts and conduct alleged herein, and they made their case above here, Hart and Pulse Chain have directly or indirectly, in connection with the purchase or sale of a security, by the use of any means of instrumentality of interstate commerce or of the mails or any facility of national securities exchange, knowingly or with severe recklessness, employed a device, scheme, or artifice to defraud, and or, so it's not necessarily he's defrauding, it's and or, engaged in an act, practice, or course of business which operated or would operate as a fraud or deceit upon any person. By reason of the foregoing, defendants Hart and Pulse Chain violated, and unless enjoined will continue to violate, Section 10B of the, we talked about 10B earlier. Second claim for relief. Okay. Plaintiff realleges and incorporates paragraph 1 through 76. By engaging in the acts and conduct alleged herein, defendants Hart and Pulse Chain in the offer or sale of a security, by use of any means or instruments of transportation or communication in the interstate commerce, or by use of mails directly, blah, 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 knowingly or severe recklessness employed a device scheme. Okay. We're doing the same thing. Knowingly, recklessly, or negligently engaged in a transaction, practice, or course of business which operated or would operate as a fraud or deceit upon the purchaser. By reason of the foregoing, defendants Hart and Pulse Chain have violated and continue to violate. Okay. And then what is the other? Okay. So sale. These are all claims for relief for the sale of a security. Okay. But pretty much this last paragraph is just saying the same stuff here. Not omitting anything on purpose, you weirdos. If you guys want to read it, it's page 26. Looks like there's only one more. All right, so here's what they want. Wherefore, the commission respectfully requests that the court enter a judgment. So this is what they want. Permanently enjoining defendants, Hart and Pulse Chain, from violating Section 17A and 17B. Permanently enjoining defendants Hart, Pulse Chain from violating these sections. So that's what they want. Permanently enjoining all defendants from violating sections 5A, 5C. Permanently barring defendants from participating directly or indirectly in the purchase, offer, or sale of any crypto security asset, or engaging in activities for purposes of inducing or attempting to induce the purchase, offer, or sale of any crypto asset security by others, ordering Hart to disgorge jointly and severally with each of Hex, PulseChain, and PulseX all ill-gotten gains received as a result of violations. So I wonder what that means. Are they saying ill-gotten gains? Are they like send the money back, or are there other ill-gotten gains? I don't know. It's obvious they're just trying to shut the whole thing down. That's what they're trying to do here. Imposing such another relief, current relief, as the court may deem and just proper. Prejudgment interest on those amounts pursuant to the court's equitable powers, all ill-gotten gains received as the result of violations alleged herein. And that's that. That is that, folks. Woo! That was a mouthful here. Let's check here. Okay. The bridge won't take my money. If Richard surrendered his U.S. passport and only carries EU, would this case be nullified? I have no clue. No clue. I'm going to go way, way down here. Where's the link to the paper he's reading? Just go to SEC press releases and you'll see it. And then there's a link at the top. It says, top right, it says related materials, SEC complaints. If you guys want to read this, that's where it is. I'll show you right here. Right there. Okay. So what are people feeling? All right. So if you love that this happened, let me know. If you hate that this happened, let me know. But let me know why. But yet the SEC doesn't utter the words Ethereum. It's almost like they're in bed with him. Interesting take. Imagine being the SEC, employees putting together this case, sad life. Community is too strong to break, especially by Gary the Lizard. Use the second and third level thinking. Think about this as being limp-wristed. The SEC not really being able to bring this one home. Yeah, that's a good point, Adam Chadwick. What about those who sacrificed by donating to the Sins Foundation? So the donations to the Sins Foundation weren't mentioned whatsoever. Breaking news, SEC sues everyone. Claims to be a fork. Is there a literal fork? The question is, how long will the lawsuit take to settle? Freedom of invitation attack. Yeah. Do you guys feel defrauded? Listening in the background, Brandon, while steadily buying up discounted RH products. It is found out that Richard spent $12 million that was from his old BTC mining days. The SEC is going to be screwed. And if he passes the Howey test, yeah, so that was my point. Like, where was I guess I was curious, and I don't think that they're required to like disclose this now. Obviously, if when it goes to trial, this type of stuff will come out. But how can they prove that money, the $12 million, came from the PulseX sacrifice, especially when mixers and stuff are involved, or these assumptions? I don't know. But that's just what pops into my head first thing. Sounds like the white paper. Yeah, it is. Most all this was the white paper. I'm so excited about this news. Can't wait to have our day. I know this wasn't over, Kinetic says. RH will overcome this. We have amazing opportunity. Eric's wall. Yeah. Do you guys feel defrauded? Let me know. How do you guys feel about that? I mean, what are your, is this a bad thing? Is this a good thing? What do you guys think? Hex Huddle says, buy the fear. Here's what I can't understand. I understood when they were suing a company or promoter, but suing a blockchain. How can that entity come to court? How can a blockchain be forced to pay a penalty? Yeah, so that's interesting. How they gotta make this. They're trying to tie Pulse Chain because they don't have proof to Richard Hart and saying that Richard Hart actually controls Pulse Chain. And that might seem, to some people, that might sound petty, but at the same time, like it has to, this type of stuff has to hold up in court. More people going to be, I'll turn some music on. Just chilling. There we go. I think we all knew this day was coming since the first day of Hex AA. I think it will end our favor with maybe a slap on the wrist for RH. Hex is immutable. One thing that I saw, let me scroll to the bottom here. Yeah. Well, shoot, I can't see. I can't find it now. I'm not going to go back through all this. Okay, we'll just keep going. Any press is good press. So what they'll do, I mean, if they want to shut it down, they'll probably attack Amazon Web Services. They'll force Amazon Web Services if there's judgment against it. That's what I would see happening. Maybe. Has that happened before? Is there precedent for that? I don't know. What a great stream, Samantha says. Thank you. Will Richard Hart tweet or stream going forward? I doubt it. Certainly. I mean, at this point, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, he's known about this for a while. He probably caught wind of this. I think Twitter was telling people when they were getting subpoena requests for records. So obviously Richard knows about this. He's known about it for a long time. I doubt that he's going to give them any sort of information. His legal counsel is probably just saying, hey, yeah, don't give him anything. That's probably what's happening. I don't know, though. Discount. Let's do another sacrifice right to trial. Code doesn't care. I'm sad. I want to be named in the SEC lawsuit. Somebody says. Saxcon says, so I find this lawsuit is idiotic, especially them claiming the marketing of the sacrifice wasn't really a sacrifice according to the SEC. So now, even if you say something to the SEC, it's not. What happened to the legal team that Kinetics and other were putting together? I don't know. Ask him. I think he's here in chat. Long term, this is bullish. If we defeat them in court, we finally solidify Hex's legal standing and invite other retailers or more whales, somebody says. Do you guys feel damaged? And I know that there's people out there. There's 470 people watching this right now. And this represents some people out there in crypto at large. What do you think? I'm not going to beat you up. I just want to know what you think about all this. Now that we've been able to read through everything, we've read through everything. You guys know the 474 people in here know better than 99% of all of crypto now, including CoinDesk, including all these places. You guys know better than everybody. So now that you have the information, what do you think? Are there admin keys on Pulse Chain? I don't know. You can answer that in chat, folks. What do you think? RH has no assets in the US. This is a good thing. Free ticket to the world stage. SEC wants control. It's just another thing. Kinetics says this was a long time coming. I think they were waiting for Pulse Chain. Yeah, while I was reading that, I think that would have been the conclusion. That would have been the final piece. But if they didn't launch Pulse Chain, then they would have brought it anyway. Right? Because then there's other issues of not coming to market. Do you think he'll win the case? I'll say this, guys. Like, you guys know that I go over the documentation in depth when it pops up, and I don't hold anything back from you guys. I will say that, you know, the type of stuff that the SEC is going to be dealing with XRP, they're also going to be dealing with Hex. They have to prove these things. And And it's interesting that they're gonna bring this to the forefront. I know that there's a lot of upset people, but there are many more people that just don't feel like they're victims. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's about the law. I get it. But there's been precedent set with XRP, and they're going to use that. If this goes to court, they're going to use that. Will this be settled out like the EOS case? $20 million or something? I don't know. The timing as it relates to the highest of stakes means that they are on their heels and worried that the public perception is about to skyrocket. It's an interesting take. If you guys didn't know, the highest of stakes movie, and you can pretty much just go to Regal Cinemas, type in the highest of stakes. There's a movie coming out about Richard Hart and this whole thing. And it premieres this week. I would say that this is very, very bullish for people showing up to watch that, whether you support Hex or not. People want to see the story. I really don't think this could have happened in any better fashion, to be quite honest with you. For the folks at the highest of stakes who have done so much. I mean, just being objective there. SEC's going after everyone now. The SEC was waiting for the release. Carson S. says it's not going to trial. It's somewhere it says they demand a trial by jury. Jury trial demanded. Jury trial demanded. Now, is that normal? Oh, a jury trial demand is a request to have your case decided by fellow citizens. So I guess that's typically, is that normal? So this is from Cornell Law. The right of a trial by jury is declared by the 7th Amendment to the Constitution or as provided by a federal statute, is preserved to the parties and violate. On any issue triable of right by a jury, a party may demand a jury trial by serving the other parties with a written demand. Blah, 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 blah. In this demand, a party may specify the issues that it wishes to have tried by a jury. Otherwise, it's considered to have demanded a jury trial on all issues so triable. If the party has demanded a jury trial only on some issues, and other parties may, within 14 days being served with the demand or within a shorter time frame ordered by the court, serve a demand or jury trial on any other or all factual issues. So I don't know if there's significance in that demand or not. I just don't know. I would like to know if anyone who knew this was coming sold the top, Joe Venuto says. Hex Agent says, same people surprised as same people saying Pulse would do a 1000x in 3 months. SEC so corrupt. Somebody says, Hex-Ray Vision, is any blockchain truly immutable, or are they all reliant on Amazon Web? It's a great question. I volunteered to be on the jury, Sam says. We're all pretty good at waiting by now. Why isn't Charles Hoskinson being sued? Thanks for the stream, guys. Here's what you got to understand, man. Like I said, they want to go for high profile stuff. They want to go for things that they think that they're going to have a higher likelihood of winning. They're not going to bring it to the forefront unless that's the case. And they've done this with a lot of people lately. All right. Lots of people. So they're looking for a dub here. RSE, dude. And if you go to the press releases, just look at how many people get sued every month, man. Non-crypto related. Just so many people. Ponzi schemes. SEC charges Florida resident for operating a $112 million Ponzi scheme that targeted Haitian American community. SEC obtains emergency relief to halt pre-IPO stock fraud. Most everything has to do with SEC charges audit firm Markham LLP for widespread quality control deficiencies. SEC secures emergency relief to protect Binance.US customer assets. Merrill Lynch charges Merrill Lynch and parent company for failing to file suspicious activity report. SEC awards whistleblower more than $9 million. Ooh, I wonder if that has something to do with this. We got some whistleblowers in here, man. What's up? All right, all good. We're pretty good at it. Whale Hunter is his own money. I'm taking a shot of soy milk. The highest of stakes. Get your tickets now. Giggles and Immutable. I volunteer to be on the jury. Guys, this is going to be a long, drawn-out process, just to let you guys know. That's what this is all about. Now, one question that just popped to mind is like a 14-day period here. What's the deal with this? 14-day period. When does the judge actually grant the wishes? At the bottom of this document, they what's this called? The prayer for relief. So prayer for relief, I guess, is just what they want to happen. The prayer for relief is the part of the complaint where a plaintiff states the damages or other remedies that it's seeking. So I don't know how quick that any ruling comes on that, but I guess it happens after a trial. I don't know. SEC found a major L. Who's next? Liquid Loans, Mintra, Dodeca, PZen. The irony of SBF charges dropped, and now this presidential election. That is a good point. All the charges against SBF were dropped from the Justice Department. Billions and billions and billions of dollars. Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of the failed cryptocurrency exchange FTX, who was accused of stealing billions of dollars, has had a campaign. Okay, so Fed drops campaign charge against Sam Bankman-Fried. But he lost the bid for dismissal of the criminal charges. Okay, interesting. Can Richard not just say that the funds are spent on marketing for the new chain if he spent the funds out of the sacrifice wallets? And that's because if he says that, if that's the case, or if he wanted to say that, then that's not going to help his case, because then it's profit from the work of others. Chase Ferguson says he's still going to jail. That's not how this works. So here's how this works. The SEC brings up these charges, and then I think that they can recommend the Justice Department take a look at these and see if there's any any criminal activity here. So and by everything that I've read, I don't see that at all. So it doesn't look like there's, this is going to be like one of those things where they settle, or the SEC gets everything that they want, and Richard Hart just gets away from the whole thing. If Richard Hart gets away from the whole thing, does this keep going? Well, I guess technically it can keep going after all the penalties are paid and this and that, because it would be decentralized, or somebody would have to pick up the slack there. So we'll see. I don't know. Awesome publicity for Hex and Pulse Chain. Much more than the documentary will be forgotten in a couple weeks. Also, what a great time to buy. Thanks for the stream, somebody says. Yeah, jury is not going to know anything about the technical aspects of this case. How can a Walmart Joe six-pack come to a correct conclusion? And I guess that's up to the prosecutors. That's up to the defense here, or the plaintiff. Oh, that was weird. All right, guys, going through chat here. Yes, SEC wants a jury trial because they'll lose on technical parts. If it goes to experts, a defendant in a case like this will not want a jury. What's interesting is that Richard's lawyers are probably the smartest, and he is probably smarter than they are. One would hope, Hextoshi. Jury trial again. I don't know enough about these things. I do not know enough. Maybe we could take a look at some other stuff. Let's take a look at some of these other press releases and then the documentation. So, for example, SEC charges Florida man. Okay. So this complaint for injunctive and other relief and demand for a jury trial. So they did the same thing, demand for a jury trial there. This guys, this could just be par for the course. I'm just not a lawyer. I don't know. I'll look at a couple more to see if this is something that they've done. Insider trading by somebody. Yeah, jury trial demanded. Looks like all these have jury trial demanded. And then they settle. Charges RSE Markets, SEC order. Order instituting cease and desist proceedings pursuant to Section 21C. Posing a cease and desist order. Okay. There wasn't a cease and desist order here. So it'll be interesting. Once some people with I know that we like Crypto Bit Law and some other folks in the community have a background in law. So it'll be interesting for them to go through this. All right. Gensler about to deploy fiat to Pulse Chain. But honestly, the people holding from down here are the diamond hands, basically the people who need to pump. Got that. Two-tier justice system. Two-tier justice system. Now, if the show was in the other foot. Now, to be honest, Cody, like I said, the SBF thing, one of the charges were dropped, which doesn't surprise me because it is the charges that directly involve like 93 politicians. campaign finance fraud. But honestly, the people holding from down here, yeah, Gamma says, okay. Is RH a U.S. citizen, though? If he gave up his citizenship, can't they just... How do you know that he... What indication do you have that RH gave up his citizenship? In fact, I'm pretty sure he said he didn't. Could be wrong. Will RH even respond to the subpoena? I'm sure he already has. This has been in process for a while, folks. This has been in motion for a while. Did RH file this against RH for Max FUD? I'd imagine that they're not going to make the person, they said some investor in that district. I imagine that they're not going to make that person's name known for fears of his safety and security. They want DeFi to cease trying to anything. Guys, this is what it is. This is what the SEC is trying to do. The SEC is trying to shut down DeFi. And I think that these are some veiled threats against Uniswap as well. I really do. Everything that they put in here is precedent for the next thing. It's precedent for the next thing. You know, when are they going to bring charges against Uniswap, decentralized exchanges, and things of that nature? He is alleged to live in Helsinki, Poland by the SEC. Yes. That doesn't mean that he's renounced his citizenship. Richard is making announcements. Pre-movie rumor has to burn all OA coins. Big buys on PLS coming in. When he's out on Twitter, he don't read anything. That was this. The SEC filed the complaint. Maybe the sacrifice for freedom is sweet. So what somebody does is they submit an anonymous tip at that link that they provided at the bottom, and then I think they're required to at least look at it and determine whether or not they want to move forward, and then they assign it. Maybe the sacrifice for freedom of speech was to fund the defense of the same thing. All right. Let's check. All right. So here's what we're seeing. Here's what the markets are seeing right now. So there was an initial sell-off. The initial sell-off was about 63, 65%. At some points during the stream, it bounced about 100%. At this point, it's bounced 50%. So it's kind of ranging in between those two right now. That's what we're seeing. That is what we're seeing, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. If you have any comments on that, leave some comments. I typically say do not like, comment, or subscribe. Leave some comments in chat. There's a lot of people that are happy right now. I wouldn't say necessarily a lot. There's a lot of people out there that feel like they've been victimized by Hex and Hex people, and they're going to come after you on Twitter, folks. That's just what's going to happen. They're going to come after you on Twitter, and I would recommend that you just keep a level head and arm yourself with the facts. That was the whole point of this. We know exactly where everything stands right now. All right. Don't be weak. Hold. Xenomorph. What is that getting? Will this suppress price into 2024, 2025? Don't know. Does anybody know if the sacrifice stuff has been touched at all? Yeah. I mean, the sacrifice, it's been moved. Yeah, they outlined that it has been moved, and we knew that it was moved. So I think that's pretty common knowledge. It's nothing new there. Not only did RH know this was coming, but he's been retweeting and commenting on SBF and XRP. Yeah, he's known this is. I mean, we've known this. It's just verification now. I mean, he's been talking about this in his own way for a while, and we know that so many influencers got this. 38% APY mining sounds a bit high. If you're, that fluctuates, but if you're staked out a max, you're going to receive additional Hex tokens at about that percent per year. This fight was inevitable, and fight we shall, and fight he shall. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all over the world, my name is Rags Riches. As always, a quick reminder, I am stupid. I barely graduated high school, trying to make something of my life now. I'm in some college classes. But as a reminder,
Rags to Riches. Do not like, comment, or subscribe.
ladies and gentlemen, I am out of here.